أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن خاتم النبيين السلام عليك يا ابن سيد المرسلين السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوسيين السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وأما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله to our audience. عزم الله أجورنا وأجوركم. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you for Nabi Akram Islamic Center's Muharram program for 2021. To begin tonight's program, I would like to call upon Brother Sayyid Sardar Haidar to enlighten our hearts with verses of the Holy Quran. Salla ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم brothers and sisters. جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Before I start reciting, I just want to mention something important, brother and sister. As you know, the situation in Afghanistan is really bad, and there are many people are refuge and got no shelters, nothing. Please don't forget them. This is an important time to please help them. Thank you very much. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you very much, Brother Sayyid Sardar, for the beautiful recitation. And also thank you for the gentle reminder about what is happening currently in Afghanistan, fortunately leading to the displacement of millions of people. So if anyone wants to make donations, please contact us via our social media and we will give you the details on how to make donations. And inshallah, in future nights, we'll make this easier on our social media pages. We'll have the posters up. Once again, thank you very much, Brother Sardar. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Wow.
For this Muharram, the dear shuyukh we are lucky to be in the presence of have started a series discussion on what we can learn from the companions of Imam al-Hussein. Last night, we discussed Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi and the important topic of repentance and what we can learn from Hurr and how we can implement steps in our lives to achieve repentance. Tonight, inshallah, the shuyukh will be speaking about Habib ibn Mazahir and the relationship between love and jurisprudence. So I'll hand over to our eloquent speakers for tonight, inshallah, His Eminence Sheikh Ahmed Waqar, Sheikh Muhammad Dahaini, and Sheikh Ali Safdari. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبو القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على
محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Assalamu alaikum Sheikh Muhammad, Sheikh Ali. Alhamdulillah, as always, it's an honor and a privilege to be here amongst you and amongst the Nabi Akram crowd and whoever is watching, especially in these holy nights. Inshallah, today we're going to be talking about the great companion Muslim ibn Osajah and other companions as well, inshallah, and the relationship between love and jurisprudence. Tomorrow, will be speaking about Sayyid Aoun and Muhammad alayhim as-salam and oppression inside the household. On the 6th night, we'll be talking about the youth of Karbala and the difference how Islam perceives youth compared to that of our culture and the West. And then on the 7th night, inshallah, we'll be talking about the prayer of Ashura, and we'll be dedicating that night to prayer. Now, on the screen, you guys have the VVox code. Now, it's good. It's on the screen. You could see it on YouTube or Facebook or however you're watching. There's a question that we're going to put up, and that question, feel free to answer it, and inshallah we will get to it in a little bit. So we're going to give you some time to answer this question. It's only a yes/no question, but please log in so you can answer it, and also feel free to put any questions that you guys have, and we'll do our best to get to them, inshallah. So the question that we have is this: do you feel that performing your religious obligations increases your spirituality? And it's a yes/no question, either yes or no. All right, as you're answering that question, I want to talk a little bit about Muslim ibn Awsaja alayhi salam. Muslim was one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was the first martyr of Karbala. His son was also martyred in Karbala. Muslim ibn Awsaja met the Prophet, narrated many ahadith, and accompanied the Muslim army when they conquered Azerbaijan. So he has a long history before the events of Karbala. And he was also a prominent member in Kufa when Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam came. So he was one of Muslim ibn Aqil's biggest supporters. He gathered money for Muslim ibn Aqil. He gathered weapons for Muslim ibn Aqil. He secured people's verbal support and allegiance for Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. After Muslim was martyred, Muslim ibn Awsaja hid for a few days and then headed towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. So we know that Muslim ibn Aqil, we spoke about him on the 2nd night. We know he was captured by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, may Allah curse him, and was executed. Now, some of his followers and supporters were also captured and put in jail, and some of them hid and escaped. Muslim ibn Awsaja was one of the ones who hid and escaped and joined Imam Hussein with Habib as well and his family. One of the instances that we hear the name of Muslim ibn Awsaja is on the night of Ashura. And I wanted to mention this story here, and I'm just going to quote it from the books. And the reason why I want to mention it is because it speaks of love. And we're going to be talking about love, inshallah, afterwards. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is narrated to have said that his father, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, spoke to his companions and said, I praise Allah, the Blessed, the Exalted, with the best of praises. I praise Him in ease and in difficulty. O Allah, I praise You for honoring us with the prophethood. I praise You for teaching us with the Quran. I praise You for making us comprehend Your religion. You gave us the faculties of hearing, the faculties of sight, and the faculties of the heart. And You did not make us among the idolaters. I know of no companions more loyal and more virtuous than my companions, nor of any household more righteous and more close-knit than my household. May Allah reward you all the best of rewards on my behalf. Indeed, I think tomorrow is the day of our encounter with these enemies. I deem it appropriate that you should all freely leave me. I have exempted you of your obligations towards me. Here is the night which has drawn its veil on you. It's become dark. So take it as a mount and leave. And he continues to say, to address his companions, for each one of them to take the hands of one of his family members and leave in the darkness. How did his family and companions respond? Bani Hashim stands up and rejects this suggestion. Hazrat Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, he was first. He says, why should we do that? Just in order to remain alive after you? May Allah never show us that day. Other members of his family followed suit and issued forth similar statements. After his family, his companions stood up. And this is where Muslim ibn Osaja comes in. Muslim ibn Osaja says, if we leave you alone, what excuse would we give to Allah for not fulfilling your rights on us? By Allah, I will fight till I break my spear in their chests. I will strike them with my sword as long as its hilt remains in my hand. I will not leave you. If I have no weapon to fight with them, I will throw stones at them in your defense until I die. Then Zuhair gets up. By Allah, I would love to be killed and then revived and again be killed until I get killed like this 1,000 times. He said he would love if that happens, so that Allah should avert death from you and from these youths of your household. Now, inshallah, we want to discuss this notion of love and jurisprudence, right? The Imam gave his companions the Islamic jurisprudential rights to leave Karbala, meaning it would not have been a sin if they left. They wouldn't have been committing a sin against God, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam would not have held them accountable or would not have looked down upon them. They were able to leave, but they didn't. Why were they loyal? Why did they remain? Why didn't they take the bare minimum of religion and save their life? Why did they decide to take a huge step forward and sacrifice themselves for the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Now, I know Sheikh Muhammad Dahani, I know there's a discussion that we were just talking about the 3 ropes of religion. Maybe we could frame it within these 3 ropes and try to figure out what made these companions so loyal.
أحسنت عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم شيخنا أحسنتم. It's always refreshing to hear the story of the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Inshallah, we can become anything like them for our Imam Majallah Ta'ala Farooq Sharif when he returns. So, you know, the 3 ropes of religion, like we were talking about earlier, we said that to hold on to Islam as like in its essence, sometimes we make the mistake of thinking, you know, religion or Islam or having a set of beliefs called Islam is just basically, you know, I pray, I fast, I do my obligatory acts and whatnot. Or some might say, you know, it's, you know, you have the extreme view of, you know, oh, okay, I don't pray and I don't fast, but, you know, I have a beautiful heart and I love people and I'm respectful and I'm nice and I'm kind and all that stuff. And then you have people that, you know, they astray a bit on in their actions, and their akhlaq is questionable, but their theology and their belief system, Allahu Akbar, they can give you the proof on every reason and on the infallibility of the Imams, and they can tell you, you know, the characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sifat. And so there are 3 essential ropes. The first rope is the jurisprudential rope, the fiqh rope. The jurisprudence, the definition of it is the study, knowledge, or skill with regards to the law. So it's the study, knowledge, or skill regards to Islamic law. Now, to have jurisprudence, there are 2 things that there's something that has to be there beforehand, which is the second rope, which is theology. This is very important. Our aqeedah, our usul al-din, our foundations. So, you know, when you want to pray towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first step before you can pray before God is knowing and believing in God in the first place. So you have theology, and then you have akhlaq, mannerisms, the behavior of the Muslim, of the human being, and the emotional side of the human being, the emotional attachment to religion or to others. So when we're searching or we're trying to cling on to Islam, it's very important to latch onto all three ropes and not think that one is sufficient. Not think that I can learn, I can enter Hawza for 10 years and study and I can become the greatest scholar and be known as Sheikh so and so, but my actions don't represent this religion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My actions don't reflect the akhlaq of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. And it's fair to say that there's one of the first ahadith that I've learned in Hawza. I think this was like one of my first days in my Arabic class. My teacher, he sat down and he wrote this. It was a Nahu class, it was an Arabic class, but he wrote this hadith and it never left. He said, "Man zdada alman wa lam yazdad tuqan, lam yazdad min Allah illa bu'd." He who is increasing in knowledge. We had just entered Hawza and we thought, it's Hawza, the place of knowledge, and not. He who increases in knowledge, but does not increase in taqwa, in fearness, in closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he's only gained distance between him and God. So jurisprudence is important, akhlaq is important, and theology is important. They're all important. But when we're looking at the companions of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, there's something that stood out. And when you're talking about the love of the companions, you can see that the companions manifested a certain level of iman that was different. And before we enter the discussion of the differences between love and jurisprudence and how it practically affects our actions, I wanted to see Sheikh Ali what he thinks and what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about the concept of love in the first place? Like, do we have this in Islam? Do we have this in the Holy Quran? Is it something that we're making up, or is it no? Is it there?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I love the endings is something we're making up. Imagine that. Like, fourth night of Muharram, we chose a Muharram topic about something we made up. What struck me with your introduction was the focus on polemics. You said we see groups of brothers, sisters. Actually, there might be phases and stages of our lives where we fell into that trap as well, where we become overly obsessed with polemics. We've learned, like you said, a proof of God's existence and this usually actually happens more so with Sunni Shia polemics, right? We learned this piece of hadith that it's mentioned in Fulan book, and you're just looking for a victim. First victim that is, does not believe in the same thing you believe, straight away you want to go and smash that person, destroy that person.
Yeah. I want to win.
Like the number of clickbait videos that are YouTube and other platforms, they're gaining popularity in this negative polemic culture. Now, polemics has its place. I'm not going to here say we don't need polemics. Polemics and apologetics, we need them. We need to be firm in having a rational basis for our understanding of our faith as Islam and our creed as the followers of the school of Ahlul Bayt. But these discussions, at the end of the day, our aqidah is supposed to build the foundation for what's to come. If we, you gave the example of ropes, and I think I'll give the example of a building, right? Whose foundation is beliefs, whose foundation is a strong theology. Sometimes we stand in salat and we're praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we remember this shubha we have of Allah. But it could be this shubha means a misconception about Allah, one of his traits, how could, for example, God allow evil to happen in the world? Why is God punishing me so much? Why am I not able to be so close to God? This must be God's fault. We have poor understandings of God because we don't have that strong foundation. Then the whole building is skewed, right? You enter jurisprudence, your a'mal don't have that level of sincerity because you don't carry that level of conviction in your jurisprudential acts and deeds. And it's too difficult to even ask that person about love and to show love for and devotion to what he does when he is, missing that foundation. So as much as important as that foundation is, and that's why we continuously
see the phrase being repeated in the Quran, الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. You know, the beginning is iman. علمهم الكتاب والحكمة. Like it always begins with knowledge and that foundation. But you're right. I feel like there is a negative culture of focusing or over focusing on that side of the discussion. Whether you're a Hawzawi or just someone who is interested in these Islamic areas, right? Areas of knowledge.
No.
It's our first entry point, whereas I think we can have better entry points into our religion. What do you think?
Even
Sheikh
if it's an entry point, like, you know, that's the thing. If this was our entry point to al-iman, which that's fine, al-iman bil-ghayb, alladhina yu'minuna bil-ghayb wa yuqimuna as-salah. But it's, you know, like you're saying, Sheikhna, that it's the problem is when we make it the goal, it's a means, you know, our rationality. This is what makes us reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not saying that our aql or our rationality or our belief system is irrelevant. Wa'iyadu billah. You know, this is one of the most significant and beautiful creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's meant to lead you to the heart, to the door of the heart. Once you enter the door of the heart and you let your, you know, yourself connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have to let another paradigm within you play. Like Imam Ali alayhi salam says, وَإِنْ أَدْخَلْتَنِ النَّارِ أَعْلَمْتُ أَهْلَهَا أَنِّي أُحِبُّكَ. Like he's in hellfire. He's saying, even if you were to put me in hellfire, in Munajat Shabaniyah, he says, I will tell the people that bestow hellfire that I love you. You know, look at the quality, look what he uses, look what he chooses to say. I'm not going to tell them that I obey you. I love you. You know, and you know, when he in Dua Kumail, the tongue of Imam Ali alayhi salam is love. You know, when he says, وَجْعَلْ قَلْبِي بِحُبِّكَ مُتَيَّمًا, such a powerful word that we recite every Thursday night, means allow my heart to be hypnotized with your love. And it don't, because he's reached the belief system of لو كشف لي الغطاء لم يزداد يقين. And if you were to remove the veils, that's it. So our goal is not to bring down Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam to us and say, oh, I can't be like Ali, I can't, he's the Masoom, he's the Imam, he's the infallible, and I'm just me, and I'm some guy living in Sydney. Habibi, if you want to be a follower, if I want to be a follower of Imam Ali alayhi salam, can't continuously say Ali, labbayka ya Ali, labbayka ya Rasulullah, and not try and go up to them, you know, try and act like them, try and become like them in my worship. So yeah, man, I think that's the goal. That should be the goal. It should be the goal, that I can completely focus all of my ibadah through emotional connection, rather than sticking to just rationally, you know, just trying to find loopholes through my Islamic law system, jurisprudence, because I've studied, you know, I know them, you know. And it's I think once we all grasp that certain level of love, then yeah, I think it'll have a different obedience, will have a different taste, have a different sweetness. Sheikhna, I feel like you're quiet, Sheikhna. Sheikh Hamid.
Oh, I'm just trying to learn.
He's a true artist, bro.
I like what Sheikh Ali said, that it seems like we've all gone through these stages, right? And I could see in my life that these stages I've gone through, well, not all of them, but some of these stages. So I know, for instance, with knowledge and, you know, debating with people of other schools of thought, right? And everything's about just trying to gain knowledge and trying to, you know, prove my point to others. Been through that. And what I realized is, if all I'm concentrating is that, and the goal is to win the argument, I don't know if that really got me closer to God. I know it made me learn more about my religion, but I don't really know if just trying to, you know, defeat some Christians in the mall or like in the shopping center in an argument, right? I don't know how that really improved my spiritual state. And then with regards to jurisprudence,
sometimes it has the opposite effect, Sheikh. I believe definitely. That it darkens your heart, because when you enter, this sort of reminds me of the passages of Munyatul Murid, the famous book from Shahid al-Thani, one of our scholars from about 500 years ago. You know, the nature of going into a debate with someone, no matter how much you try to stay civil, no matter how much you tell yourself and you tell everyone in the beginning, we're just here to learn, right? No matter the vibe you try to set, at the end of the day, it's really hard sometimes to swallow that you're wrong. And that it might be a moment, you know, it might be 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you're just like biting the bullet and saying, damn, he's right, he got me. And that feeling, it might even affect your relationship with the opposite person. And vice versa, when you have that moment when you say, bingo, gotcha, you know, that gotcha moment that's now become famous, you can't but help feel superior for a second, you know, that, oh, I did something, I achieved something. So sometimes I feel like it has even the reverse spiritual effect.
It definitely can. It really depends on your intentions, but for sure it can.
Yeah.
And then I know afterwards the fiqh path, right? Where, all right, I have an obligation and I'm going to do my obligation, bare minimum, make sure that I pray, fast, give khums. I haven't been on Hajj yet, but inshallah in the future. And whatever my obligations are, I'm doing them. And I'm still going to find ways to do what I want to do in life as well. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look at all the different murajas, points of view. Oh, there's an Etiyat Wajib here, which means I could go to the next most knowledgeable. And I'm going to go find down the chain and, oh, there we go. 43rd Etiyat Wajib. That's what I want to do.
We've all been there. We've all been there. Yeah.
So, and
some of us are still there.
But that definitely, like, if that's my purpose, right, and I'm just trying to satisfy my desires, then that's really not getting me closer to God as well. Like if I'm just focusing on bare minimums, right?
Yeah.
So definitely I see where you're coming from, that this emotional attachment and this love has to be part of my faith. Where if I'm praying, and not only am I trying to observe the bare minimums of prayer, but I'm also praying out of love, right?
Yeah.
Then that will, inshallah, increase the effect of prayer. Now, I wanted to take it a little bit further though, because we're living here in the West, and I know we've all been accustomed to the Christian concept of love and how everything is love in Christianity. Love Jesus, and that's it. You're sweet. All you got to do is love, right? Now, I might beg to say that that's taking it too far. So what can we say about that?
Yeah. So, Sheikh Ali, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we just said no polemics, and Sheikh Ahmed goes. Yeah, I mean, no, you know what? I'm going to leave this. I'm going to come from a different angle. I'll let you have this one.
Okay. So the interesting thing about love when it comes to, you know, the Islamic perspective is that we're not talking about an emotion that is baseless. You know, our love is based on our knowledge. You know, like when we talk about the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the love of Imam Ali, or the love of any of our leaders, or the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, there's a certain level of knowledge that they had. So, you know, I think in today's age, whether it's, you know, the Christian version of love or whoever defines love, if it's not accompanied with knowledge. So if you were to ask me right now, okay, how do we build this? Okay, you're talking about emotional connection, you're talking about love, it's a good theoretical talk, you know, blah, blah, blah. But how does one build it? You know, what's the point of talking all the talk if there's no actual practical way of building it? And, you know, it's a very simple process, really. I'm not saying it's easy by all means. All of us are, our whole life, literally to the day we depart from this earth, should be striving to better and fix and strengthen our relationship and our emotional connection to God and to each other. So we're not saying that this is something that you accomplish in a night and a day. We're saying this is something that you work towards. But one of the ways, or a few ways that you attain, or you receive, or you construct this side of you, this emotional part of you, is through knowledge, Sheikhna. And to get to your question about the Christianity and whatnot, the ones who really study, Jesus alayhi salam, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, whether it's from a Christian perspective, whether it's from a Muslim perspective, whether it's from a Shia perspective, whether it's from a Sunni perspective, regardless of the perspective, when we're talking about someone who has studied a person in history, not has heard from their father and their cousin and their friend in the Bible what's said, or what's said on TV, or what I watched a Facebook video here and an Instagram post there. We're talking really reading the words of Jesus alayhi salam. You see that his love had come from a place of knowledge, a place of connection, and when he tells us to love, and he orders his followers to love God or love one another, he's not saying just throw your emotions out there, just go hug each other, kiss each other, and I forgive you all, and anyone can be oppressive to anyone. It's all sweet. By all means, even if you were to go to a person who's really researched Nabi Isa alayhi salam from any scripture, that Jesus himself was full of knowledge. And so when I want to create this emotional connection, I'm going to see, okay, who do I want to love? So who am I searching to love? Let's say I wanted to love my spouse, or I wanted to love someone. Who is this person to me? How significant are they? What do they represent? What have they given me? What have I given them? What have they sacrificed for me? What have I sacrificed for them? And when you start to hit and start to try and answer these questions and tackle them one by one, and then you bring these questions and you try and sort of put them in God's way and start to ask, okay, who's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When I'm praying, who am I praying in front of? Who is this creator? When I say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, who's the most merciful? It's God. What has he given me? Do I truly believe in his oneness? Do I truly believe in his existence? If so, and it's not something that I just heard from my parents or my society, I really believe in it, then what has he given me? What the sustenance and the rizq? What do I deserve? I'm a servant, I'm a creation. What do I deserve, and what has he given me? And you start to really understand the level of insignificance you are in regards to what you've been given, from God. It's like me telling you, Sheikh Ali, right now, here's $1 million, bro. This is $1 million gift from me to you. And then you come and say, all right, thanks, Daina, here's $1,000 as a gift. And I sit down and tell you, thank you, man. Thanks for $1,000. Really appreciate it. You look at me, you'd laugh. You're like, bro, you're the one that gave me the $1 million. You know what I mean? So when you see this language with God, when he's telling you, "Ud'uni astajib lakum," when Imam Hussein alayhi salam Dua Arafah says that, وَإِن دَعَوْتُكَ أَجَبْتَنِي وَإِن, he's basically telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when I ask you, you give me, and when I pray, you forgive me, and when I thank you, you thank me. So I think it really comes down with knowledge. I think knowledge and understanding, and then after you've really believed and understood, then try and contribute and give on. What do you reckon, Sheikhna? What do you think? What are some practical ways to build an emotional connection with others or with God specifically?
I'm gonna have a bite at the question Sheikh Ahmed just threw at us about. I want to ask what was the historical motivation for Christianity becoming so embedded with this idea of infinite love, if you like. I have a few guesses, okay? We can just, I'll throw it out, I'll think out loud. I think one might be, if it's a historically ancient idea, that when Christianity emerged as a religion from its very early days, it had this component of love as a very vocal component, that it was always talking about love. If that was the case, then I would assume that it was a reaction to the more jurisprudential nature of Judaism. As you know, Judaism is very, in terms of its ahkam, in terms of its legislation and laws, it's very close to the religion of Islam, okay? And so maybe those who began to formulate this religion, and I'm using the word formulate because if it was truly a religion of Allah, then the component of love would be moderated with the component of action and jurisprudence as well.
So,
So maybe it was a way to gain a following and even till today, this type of, we see this in the Baha'i faith as well. There is a overemphasis on this topic of love. You can essentially do whatever you want as long as you have these core ideas and as long as you do a few things. I think that has an attraction for people. It's a minimally committed religion, and it may have been a political move, to have the most number of following. At the same time, it could be something, because even within Christianity, we have people who are, even the Quran talks about them, the idea of rahbaniyya, Christians who devote them to the monastery. Now, that's not an easy path of life. That's very difficult. You're putting yourself away from community, away from the luxuries of life, away from marriage, away from so many things. So
away from test.
At the same time, it's a hard test as well. I'm not going to, yes,
away from the test. It's away from the test.
Yes, it is away from the test, but I think it's a test in and of itself as well. It's I get where you're coming from. When you are within society, you're tested differently, and sometimes it's a more difficult test. But when you are, sort of locking yourself up in a monastery, not allowing yourself a lot of the luxuries of life, that's also a test. I don't ignore that side of it either. Nonetheless, now if that's going to be the version of religiosity that's going to be advocated for people, that's not feasible, because not everyone is going to abandon their lives and enter the monastery. So then there has to be this alternative way of, once again, being able to be Christian and at the same time not follow that path. And to link it back to Imam Hussein, how often do you see that being played out with Muharram and Ashura? With the concept, I'm going to come in here and link it back to love. There is an important component of love in Muharram and Imam Hussein, which inshallah we can touch on. But I feel like sometimes it's abused in the same way that perhaps Christianity has abused the concept of love. That if you love Imam Hussein, you cry for him. Don't worry about your obligations. Don't worry about your duties towards those around you. Don't worry your duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As long as there's one drop of tea that you cried for Imam Hussein, then everything is gone. I feel like we see similar trends.
Ahsan, Sheikh. I agree with that.
Very
100%.
good point.
I see these as well. I want to just bring up the poll question we put at the beginning. Just because I think when people open the Vvox app, that's what they see, and they're answering that, and they might not be answering questions because of that. So let's just look at that poll when we bring it up. I could see the far majority of people answered the question in the affirmative. That what was the question exactly? Let me bring it up.
Do you feel that performing your religious obligations increases your spirituality?
So they said yes. And I would agree with that. But obviously, when we mix love in with it, right? So if you're only performing your obligation without any emotional connection to what you're doing, then I don't think it would have too much of an effect. But when you are, then mashallah, our audience are mu'mineen.
Alhamdulillah.
Definitely, we could see that it is having effect. Now, I wanted to...
I mean, the way that's worded, it's hard to say no.
But let me see. The point you were mentioning, Ali, I think that was a very interesting point that you mentioned about the possible historical connection to love in Christianity. I definitely would agree that I'm sure there was some aspect of Nabi Isa alayhi salam's teachings that addressed that. I would 100% believe that he would mention that. But I think what the modern notion of love is in the modern day Christian is different, right? And it's very interesting when we look at it, because of that correlation that you just posed with Imam Hussein alayhi salam as well, right? So I think we have two types of Christians, just as we have two types of Muslims. Okay. This concept of love is really thrown out after during the separation of what's it called, Protestantism and Catholicism. So in the Catholic version of Christianity, there's lots of rules that you have to follow. And when the Protestants broke away, they were like, no, it's all love. It's all love. Don't get bogged down by all these rules. It's about your connection to Jesus. It's all love, right? And it seems as if, right, from an outside perspective here, that it was a green light to move away from these rules and obligations that they had. Okay.
So you're saying this is very recent?
Yes.
Okay.
This, right. I'm sure there was a historical part of it, but recently this is where it became like prominent. Okay. Now, that being said, the Christian of today, right? The Protestant Christian of today, when he goes into church and hears about the concept of love, he can take it one of two ways. He can take it, A, all I have to do is have a connection to Jesus, who he thinks is God, and that connection, that love, will save me in the hereafter, and I don't really have to worry about anything else. I'm going to live my life as I want. I'm going to do what I want, and I have love, and I'm or B, the Arif Christian, right? The mystic Christian, right? He's going to say, I love Jesus, and because I love him, I want to emulate him. I want to live my life as Jesus lived. I want to please Jesus in my action. Now, when we look at it with Imam Hussein alayhi salam, same scenario. Yeah. One tear for Imam Hussein, you'll be going to heaven. And how many people have that same notion that, all right, I could do whatever I want to do throughout the year, and then in Muharram, I'm going to cry. I'm going to stop listening to music in Muharram. I'm going to stop doing A, B, C, and D, and then once Muharram's over, black clothes come off, live my life, and then cry again next year, right? Or you have B, the Muslim who has true love, where their love motivates them to try to please Allah, to try to please Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. When they hear that Imam Zaman alayhi salam receives news about our actions on a weekly basis and cries because of our shortcomings and our disregard for our Islamic responsibility, that moves them. They're like, man, I'm not going to do anything that makes me get closer, or that makes Imam Zaman alayhi salam upset, that makes Allah upset, right? I think that correlation's beautiful. There's a question here. Let's jump onto this question that was asked in the audience, inshallah, and then let's see where that takes us. Ali, could you read the question?
Yeah, sure. Is this same as platonic love?
There you go, Ali. I think you're our philosopher here, so why don't you tackle that?
When they say platonic love nowadays in pop culture, it just means the idea of soulmates and things of that sort. I don't know exactly what it's being referred here, so I don't want to be giving misinformation and ruining people's ideas of platonic loves and soulmates. But if you have an input on the question, I honestly have no useful input on the question. If you have, go for it. Otherwise, I can add a few points in regards to what you said.
Yeah, I don't know what platonic means, so sorry.
Yeah,
I think like what I hear is like friendship. right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I understood too. But yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe the questioner can rephrase it for us.
So
That'll
please,
be much appreciated.
please,
Thank
it's
you.
my shortcoming. It's not your shortcoming, but you know, I have to learn more, inshallah, to be able to answer that. There's another question as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on the back of that question actually. The question is: religious obligation is a path to Allah, but it's necessary but not enough. Love of Allah is to follow His rules and subjugate Him. Well, that's not a question. Essentially, a reiteration of some of the points we made. Ahsantum, whoever made that point. I, I wanted to, now we sort of had a dig at the idea of coming to Muharram, quitting X, Y, and Z, like you were just mentioning, in the hopes that that will erase our sins, while we know that we're going to return back to our old habits. And this also extends to the idea of being Shia. We have this as well, like, oh, if you're just a Shia, then eventually you're going to end up in
You're good.
heaven somehow,
Yeah,
you
you're good.
know.
Don't
Even
worry,
if you're a
you're good.
murderer, drug dealer, fornicator, yeah, you're
Yeah.
good. So the same idea extends there as well. It's a very dangerous idea. As you can see, it's a very comfortable idea, and it resembles what Sheikh Ahmed said in Christianity as well. But I want to look at the flip side of that, that there is a component. I keep using that word today. I need to find a new word. There is a dimension to Imam Hussein, to Imam Hussein's movement, that is not found anywhere else. Go look around the world. In which gathering, in which movement do people get together to cry out of love for someone? You know, there is the expression tears of joy or tears of love, right? That happens very rarely in our lives. If you've watched a really great movie, you've listened to a great piece of music, or whatever touches your heart, you've read a great novel by one of the classics, it might have touched your heart. There might be a tears of joy in one part of it because how magnificent and awesome this piece of art was. But how often in our lives do we experience, or are we put in environments where we're able to experience tears of love and joy? It is rare. It does not happen. But here we have at least 10 days, right, where we get together, and we cry out of love for someone. We don't care about ourselves in this stage. It is purely for the love of Imam Hussein. And this, like, I think the emotional aspect of Imam Hussein is what draws so many people to Imam Hussein, and it should never be underestimated. Sometimes it is underestimated. The majalis are underestimated. We're talking about love, and the emotional aspect of Imam Hussein. I want to look at the movement of Imam Hussein as it is represented and manifested today, which is through these majalis, right? These majalis have an attraction for all of us. People that, like you said, don't come around all year will come around to Muharram lectures. It's not because they like my face. Maybe your face is Munawwareen. They come to listen to you. But honestly, it's not because of us, right? Because we're doing this all year round. And you don't get these numbers, but these numbers come for Imam Hussein. All right, there is and so the emotional aspect of Imam Hussein, the crying, the tears, these are if not more important, as important as these lectures and as the education that comes with that. Just consider the choreography, the latam, that we have as well. All right. Sometimes we're embarrassed by this latam, this sinazani as they call it, this how do you pronounce that, man? Choreography? Yeah. Where you're singing something, yeah, choreography, where you're singing something and doing something with your body as well, right? Sometimes we're embarrassed, right? And there are good reasons why some forms of it is embarrassing, but done in a nice civil manner, it is really attractive. Very, very attractive, and we're not proud of enough. Once again, you don't see this anywhere. The closest thing you'll probably compare this to, I'm sorry for this comparison, but just bear with me. Just the amount of emotion, the amount of even adrenaline, if you like, the amount of love that's pumped into this ritual, if you like, You don't find it anywhere else, but we're not investing in these things as much. People, youngsters, you know, go to clubs, goes to music, hard style, soft style, I don't know, bro, like all these styles that are out there. They're going there to release that emotion but look at the end result. You come to Majlis of Aba Abdullah, you cry and you cry, tears of joy, phenomenally unique experience they don't find anywhere else. And how do you feel after you leave the Majlis? Those people leave their clubs and their, you know, music and festivals drunk and on drugs. How do you leave the Majlis enlightened, feeling hard, on a spiritual high, right?
Proud.
So I'm saying you're proud. You know, at the same time that, you know, these things we shouldn't like limit Imam Hussein to this idea of love and emotion. But my God, how powerful is that?
Son, you know, I'm working. That's something that, you know, you'd hear a lot growing up. You know, there's so many people that, you know, all year round they barely take care of their salat, barely, they don't fast, but in Muharram they show up for salam. And although yes, it does hurt. It hurts not because they're affecting me or you, but they're affecting themselves. Like, you know, when you have this harara, this love for Abu Abdullah Hussein salam, I don't believe it's fake. I believe it's real. I believe that this love, although it's not accompanied with action, but the love is real, like to a certain level. A certain part of this love, this emotional connection, when you a tear on Abu Abdullah Hussein salam, we're not saying that it's not significant, it doesn't speak wonders about you, but in itself it's not enough to make you the person that you want to become. You know, the character, the Islamic Ja'fari Muwali of Sahib al-Amr, that character that you want to become the companion of Sahib al-Zaman, a tea itself won't do it, you know. But Muharram is a very, very, very brilliant platform for us to build off. You know, that we can build off the momentum of that Ahsan Shaykhna, what you just mentioned, that spiritual, that enlightening feeling that you have after Majlis. And you know, when you said that, I got goosebumps because it's true, bro. It's true. Like, you know, you wait all year around, and these 10 nights, they're different, man. Like, you're so absorbed by the story of Karbala. You're so absorbed by Muhammad alayhi salam. And, you know, you're not talking about, you know, one day of the year. You're not talking about a night, and you're talking about a time where, you know, whether it's the 10 days or the 40 days or, you know, the 2 months of Shahr Muharram and Safar, where you have a large amount of people in the world, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people that have devoted their heart to one man and to one story. And subhanallah, like, it's a level of tawfiq that I don't think we acknowledge or we're grateful enough for. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam has a platform of ilm, of knowledge, every year for the past 1400 years, where in his name his people are being taught by his leaders, like by the scholars, or, you know, the ulama that are teaching in Muharram, teaching and doing these majalis. So, you know, it can only stem from, you know, such a tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for such a message to stay so upright after so long. Just means how much love this man really possessed, because he affected every single one of us individually. Imam Hussein alayhi salam has affected the emotions of any person and every person that's ever heard his story. You know, even the enemy of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, there's narrations that say Umar ibn Sa'ad himself cried when the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was put up on a spit in the Qasr al-Ziyad. So, you know, like, I have to agree with you, man. And although that they're so significant, to think that you can finish these 10 nights or these 13 nights or these 40 days and just without an action plan, without something, take away from Muharram, take a paper and a pen to a majlis, man. Like, when you're listening to a lecture, take a paper and a pen, write down, promise yourself every night that, you know, after you hear the story of Har, promise yourself that every day or every week or every month, I'm going to hold myself accountable for my sins and repent. You know, when you hear the stories of Ali al-Akbar, the stories of Qasim, the stories of Abbas, promise, I want to be loyal, and like implement these principles that you're learning from your leaders, the ones that you're crying for. But the tea itself only shows that you know the story, and knowing the story isn't enough. Knowing the
Essentially.
story isn't enough. Sorry, Sheikh,
100%. Like I feel that tear, like I was thinking of that tear and Hur that we were speaking about yesterday. Like that moment where Hur was seeing himself between heaven and hell and made that decision. That could be anyone in the majlis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and that one tear can bring them into the fold of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. But you're right, it's not that tear alone, it's that tear with that determination to change, right? It's not that tear of only hearing the story and that's it. It's that tear of, I can't believe that I'm where I am and I'm nowhere where I need to move forward.
Even believing.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Let's look at these questions. There's some more questions that came up. Ali, could you read the next one?
Would you be among, actually let's read this one. Isn't crying majlis for Imam Hussein in the way it is done today only a recent thing in history?
So it depends on in the way it's done today, how we want to define that. So we know that majalis were held during the lifetimes of the Imams alayhim salam, where the Imam would bring poets who would recite lines of poetry and the Imam would praise them and the Imam would cry from these poems. So there was definitely masa'ib. If you mean the entire majlis in its entirety, where someone gets up and recites some Quran and then a scholar will give a 45-minute lecture, and then there'll be these poetries, and then the Latmiya sessions in the form that we have today. Probably those didn't exist in the time of the Imam exactly as it is now, but that's just how the culture has evolved. I don't see anything negative in it. I feel that the concept was there, and right now it's just the modern day expression of that concept. I don't know, do you feel that was answered well enough?
Yeah, Sheikh, 100%.
All right, next one, Ali.
The other question is, would you be among Imam Hussein's companions if he was today?
What's that?
Would you be among the companions of Imam Hussein if Karbala was today?
Let me answer that question with, I have this story that just popped into my mind. The lecture before this, I mentioned it as well. I should probably wait for the day of the prayer that we talk about prayer, but man. So I have this friend, right? One of my brothers from Los Angeles. We used to live together in an apartment with a number of other brothers, and in this apartment building is all mu'minin except for myself, and everyone inshallah was trying their best to get closer to Allah. And this brother entered Hawza after I did. He didn't stay very long, but he entered Hawza, and then he's now studying Islam in university. I think he's probably teaching Islam in a university setting right now as well. So he's dedicated his life to Islam. But I remember he gave a short lecture before one of the speeches of Muharram. Now this is a brother, he's amazing. He's amazing. And he was mentioning a dream that he had. And usually I'm not big into dreams, but this one stuck with me all the way till today. So, and I've mentioned it before. I don't know if you've heard this before, but he's mentioned this dream, and he said that the dream was so vivid. And it came after the previous night where the sheikh was saying that you guys think you'd be the followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You wouldn't. It seems like, looking at hindsight, it's easy, but it wouldn't have been that easy. And the brother was thinking like, man, like, come on. If somehow I got teleported back into that time, I stumbled into a time traveling machine and I got thrown into the desert, and it's near Karbala and Imam Hussein is there. Of course I'm running there. I'm going to do whatever I can to protect them. Come on. I cry every year for the Imam. I do whatever I can for the Imam. There's no doubt that I would join Imam in that fight. Like, of course I would join there. Like, I could sit there and the Imam says, please come with me. I'm going to tell him no. Come on. Of course I'm going to go, right? So he went to bed with that in his mind. And then he said he had this dream that he teleported back to Karbala. And it was the day of Karbala. And he said the dream was so vivid. It's like I couldn't tell the difference between reality and dream.
Wow.
Right? And he said the Imam stood up for prayers, Zuhr prayers. And the Imam asked me, can you stand in front of me? The enemies are going to shoot arrows. Please stand and protect the congregation. So of course, I'll stand in front of you, Imam. I'll take every arrow with my chest. Of course. So he says the Imam stands up for prayer, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and I'm standing in front of him, right? And just as the movies, somehow my vision could see the enemy soldier from so far away as if he's right next to me, right? And he pulls his hand back on the bow and arrow. The arrow flies into the sky. I know Amir likes that. So the arrow flies into the sky, and just like in the movies where, you know, a gun is shot and the bullet becomes so slow and you're watching the bullet hit its target, the arrow is coming at me like that. I'm watching the arrow, it's spinning, it's moving towards me. Slowly, 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 I'm getting my chest ready. It's about to hit me last second.
Oh, no.
And the arrow goes and it hits the Imam, right? And then I wake up. And I know, man, I'm all talk. I'm all talk.
SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah.
Right? Like, it's easy to say we'd be with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It's easy. I think, you know, really trying to figure out where we need to be. And I know love is a huge component where we are performing our religion, not the bare minimums, but we're really trying to increase this connection we have with Allah, with the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, with our living Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam. That's where we need to be, inshallah.
Do you feel that maybe we have given the impression that there is a dichotomy between doing our bare minimum and having love? Do you feel that we've given that impression?
I do, and if that's the case, it's wrong, right? Because if we're doing,
sorry, Sheikh, can you just sorry, Sheikh Ali, because I don't think that the question would be too clear for everyone. Can you just repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I was just saying, have we in this discussion given the impression that there is a dichotomy between performing your bare minimum and having love, as if sometimes you are doing your bare minimums, somehow there's no love in that? Because I'll beg to differ.
Yeah, I would differ as well. It's all about the intention and where your heart is, right? So your heart could be in the bare minimums, right? It doesn't mean that, okay, if I'm not doing more than what Allah requires of me, then I don't love him. No, it's doing what he wants me to do sincerely out of love, right? And a lot of times that would lead to further action, but it doesn't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
You know, when I remember in my early years in Hausa, I was speaking to my teacher one day, and I was so fired up. Like, you know, I was the type where I like to, you know, be just dressed a certain way, talk a certain way, regardless of the fact that I'm in the Hausa and whatnot, you know. So one day, one of the teachers, I was sitting down with him, and I told him, I was explaining to him my point of view. Like, you know, I wear, you know, t-shirts or I wear jeans because, you know, growing up, I just felt like, you know, I should be like everyone else. I shouldn't be different. You know, I shouldn't dress in a certain dress code so I can be different. He's like, that's true. He told me my issue we're talking about an akhlaqi issue here. And he was talking about in general, when you choose the path of talab al-ilm. Now, that's specific to my case then, but to bring this story to today, when I choose, I want to become, you know, a companion of Sahib al-Zaman, Ajallah Ta'ala Faraj Sharif. You know, there's different paths. There are different lanes, I should say. It's one path, there are different lanes. Let's say on the far left lane, you know, you have the person that abides by his, you know, like, you know, myself at some stage of my life, you know, growing up where you don't really understand, or you do understand, but you're a bit negligent towards your belief. You know, you do the bare minimum, maybe just a bit more. But that doesn't mean that you're closer to the lane of Sahib al-Zaman or the hierarchy of the companions. The closer you want to get to the higher level companions, the more you want to shift into another lane. And to shift into another lane, there's a certain level of emotional connection. We're not saying that it doesn't exist. It exists in every lane. You know, if you're praying your salat, you know, if you're doing qada salat subuh, you know, you can't wake up for it on time and you're praying it after. We're not saying, hey, you don't love God, that's why you didn't wake up for salah. But if you did wake up for salah and you did pray, then that's fine. That's good. Good on you. Allah Ta'ala. You've done the bare minimum, you know. But let's say you got up for salah, you know, on a cold night, and you done your salat and you read some Quran and you did some dua and you done salat al-layl. You know, that's another lane. You're shifting into another lane. Let's say you were able to cry, you were able to pray, but with emotion, you were able to really connect to your salat. It's another lane. So all of us, we move from lane to lane in our life. That's fine. Like, don't think that, you know, you have to be in one place, and if you're not there, then, you know, or every single one of us, we're on the sirat, on the path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sirat al-mustaqim. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. Ihdina the journey towards God. It's not like if I do good today and I sleep tomorrow, that means I'm a bad person. It just means, okay, I need to be motivated. I need to get back onto the path. So ultimately, we should always be. Yeah,
as long as you're indicating while changing lanes, actually, the rest is all good.
Yeah, I indicate by changing lanes by contributing and loving others. That's how I show people that I'm changing lanes, by becoming a better version of myself, by letting people be like, look at you like, wow, this is the akhlaq of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. You know, then you're switching lanes, you know.
That was very smooth. Right. I would.
We got Ali, we got an explanation about your philosophical question. So,
okay, can I add a 30-second amendment? Sorry, appendix to what Sheikh Muhammad just said. I think, practically speaking, for myself and for maybe many of us, the first step that we should probably focus on is getting our bare minimums done with high quality, right? So, if we can do that, فقد فزنا فوزا عظيما. Like, we have been hugely victorious, right? And I just will bring a verse of the Quran just to emphasize this fact. قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله. Right? That if you say that you love Allah, we're talking about love here, right? What is Allah asking you? فاتبعوني, just follow the Prophet, right? Just follow him in the obligations with love, with high quality. يحببكم Allah. And then there will be there will be, Allah always loves us. This return road of God's love is always there. But then there will be a higher frequency, a larger influx of love that you'll be able to perceive from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, so I thought I'd just...
No, very, very important point. So thank you very much for that.
So there's a little chat that's going on YouTube. Brother Sajjad, assalamu alaikum. He's asking how he could message us. Just message us where you are, and inshallah we'll see that. But there is a explanation of the Platonic questions. They say Platonic is to mean intimate, but not in a sexual way.
Yeah, so like a friendship type.
Right? Yeah, so I don't know how that responds to that original question. I actually don't remember exactly what it was. But
maybe it's asking about love and lust. Yeah, of course, we're not talking about lust here.
So can I love my friend? That's, for example, if I'm a guy, can I love my friend that's a girl, but without any sexual desire or lust for things? It's just, I just love her as a friend, or I love him as a friend, or whatever.
Well, I think when we're talking about love of God and love of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, it's pretty clear what type of love we're talking about here. Yeah, inshallah.
So with sorry, just to shed light on that question, because I think it's important, very important question, maybe for another time, because it's a sort of different subheading. But on that question, for whoever did pose it, I think when you're try and pinpoint what type of love you have for your friend and where it stems from, this platonic love that exists, where it stems from, and is it real love? And if it is, then how do you act on it? Then you know the type of love we're talking about with God. Like when you're loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not really expecting anything in return, you know. Whereas with most of us, so yeah, I don't want to go too much on the question, but you know, there's a difference in feeling in the way you love each other, especially when you're comparing it to the divine stream. Sheikh Tfaddal. Is there another question, Sheikh Hamad?
I think there.
I felt like he was going to another question.
Oh, is there another question?
I don't know.
Can you read that, Ali?
Questions? There's no more questions.
No, it's just saying thank you for your participation.
Okay, so I thought there was another question.
No worries. All right, subhanallah.
Okay. No. So, Sheikh, is there anything that you guys want to add more to the discussion about love, or how to attain it, or?
I think we're good, Sheikh. Now let's lead into the practical bit of love, inshallah.
Okay, so inshallah, I wanted to just sort of touch on the story that Sheikh Hamad mentioned earlier about the hadith of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. So Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, he mentions, and they said, the narrations say just closer to his martyrdom. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, when he's describing that night, the night of the Ashir, he says that my father sat down with the companions, and I was sitting down listening from the tent, and the companions were sitting down listening to Muhammad, and he's telling them, I'm not going to repeat the whole story, but he told them, if you want to, it's like I am telling you right now, it's okay for you to leave. Each one of you take the hand of a family member of mine and leave and go. Like, these people want me, they don't want you. Imam Hussein alayhi salam wasn't sending these, his companions on a guilt trip. He wasn't trying to make him feel bad. He wasn't trying to, win brownie points. He was genuine. He was telling them, go, it's fine. Like, and mind you, he's already admitted, and he said, you are khairul ashab. It's like, I have never seen or witnessed companions like my companions. And for granted heaven, and you've fulfilled your obligations, you're sweet. And the way they reacted was phenomenal. Like, once again, Sheikh Hamad mentioned that they said that, if you were to chop off into pieces, or that the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, Fadl Abbas alayhi salam and his brothers come up and they said, what's the point of life after you, Ya Aba Abdullah? Like, what's the point of living and you're not on this earth with us? And they all had their moments. After this talk, Imam Hussein alayhi salam gets up, and towards a bit later in the night, he's walking, and one of his companions sees him and says, what's he doing? This companion's name is Nafi'. Nafi' comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and tells him, Ya Aba Abdullah, what are you doing? He sees Imam Hussein alayhi salam walking and cleaning things off the floor. He tells him he's preparing for tomorrow. He says, Ya Nafi', tomorrow is going to be a bloody day. Tomorrow is going to be a day that blood's going to be shed. That my family are going to be taken captive. My brothers, my companions are going to be chopped up into pieces. He says, I'm preparing. So the first thing I do is, and look at the strategy. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look what he's thinking about. This is Laylatul Ashir. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's picking up, he's removing all of the obstacles off the ground. the hilltops. So anything that the horses may collide with, anything that the army, the men may collide with, rocks on the floor, anything that's going to be standing in the way, he's removing it and cleaning the battleground for them to make it comfortable, as well as removing the chalk, the spikes off the ground. And he says, because the women and the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the granddaughters, are going to be taken captive and they're going to be running from tent to tent. So he comes and takes his hand and he says, Ya Nafi', look, just leave, man. Just please go. Like this is not, it's nighttime. These are the two mountains. No one's going to see you. I'm telling you, you're free. And he tells him, Ya Aba Abdullah, no. And of course he refuses. Fiercely he refuses. Ya Aba Abdullah, I want to die for you. He's like, I am here to shed my blood for you. So Muhammad leaves, and this is when he enters the tent to speak to Zainab alayhi salam. He's speaking to Zainab, and he tells Zainab, he's speaking to her, and telling her, like, it's okay, Ya Zainab, like, don't worry, you know, I don't want you to cry for me. People, and he mentions beautiful words to say to Zainab alayhi salam, trying to calm her down. He tells her, Ya Zainab, I don't want you to be brokenhearted. I don't want you to cry and la tashukki alayya jayban. Don't rip your clothes. Don't, you know, overreact to the situation, because that is when I feel I won't be able to handle it. That's when it's going to be too tough for me. I want you to be patient, Ya Zainab. I want you to be strong. A lot of things are going to happen. And then she says, Ya Abdullah, what about your companions? What about your companions? Like, what do you like? Are you sure that you know exactly what they want from you? And he tells him, he tells him, Abdullah says, I have seen nothing but loyalty from them. These men are special. They're different. They're strong. They're brave, and they love me. They seek to be martyred by my side, like the toddler seeks to drink laban from his mother's breast. So who hears this conversation? Nafi', who was walking with Muhammad sallallahu. Nafi' is standing on the outside of this tent, and he hears. He goes and he straight away runs to Habib ibn Mudahir, and he tells him, Habib, Zainab is scared. Yeah, Habib, Zainab is scared. She's scared because she thinks that she's questioning the companions. And then Habib says, yeah, it's like, if I was able to now, if Imam Hussein gave me the okay now, I will go and attack and I'll fight with this enemy right now and this time. And he says, let's go. He says, Nafi' tells him, and you know what? I think I heard the woman crying. Yeah, Habib, I think I heard the woman really upset about what's to happen. He's like, let's do something about it. Let's cheer them up. So Habib ibn Mudahir goes to the companion. He says, Ya Ashab. And he starts to call them and they start to come. And he starts to tell them what's happening. That Nafi' heard so-and-so. And Zainab saying so-and-so. And the women are feeling so-and-so. So these men get up. And they go towards Zainab alayhi salam, towards the tent. And they're telling her, Ya Zainab, we are here. We are your soldiers. We are your men. Don't be scared. And they cheered them up and they were trying to give them hope. Inshallah, before we let the brother start the majlis, on this point, I want to ask, if we look at these companions and we picture Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif come to us today, and we are among the companions of Sahib al-Zaman, what are we willing to sacrifice for Sahib al-Zaman? What are we willing to do for Sahib al-Amr? How much are we willing to give to Sahib al-Zaman? How much love, how much connection, how much emotion, how much of myself am I willing to sacrifice for Sahib al-Amr? Of my comfort for Sahib al-Amr, for this mission. The companions alayhim salam were considered the greatest of companions. And after they had agreed and they had accepted that tomorrow is the day of their martyrdom, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they were sitting down. Imam Hussein alayhi salam tells them, look up. And they all look up and they say that they see all of their houses in heaven. Every single one of every companion, he says, Hada Bayt Fulan, Hada Bayt Fulan, Hada Bayt Fulan, this is your house, this is your house. And then Qasim looks up and he says, Ya Am, and am I from those who will die, who will be martyred tomorrow? He tells him, Kayfa tara al-maut. Inshallah, we'll mention this story on the day of Qasim alayhi salam. He says, I see it as sweet as honey. He says, yes, you will be martyred. And he starts to tell them the stories of what's to happen. And they knew that they would be martyred in a certain way. They knew the outcome. But they were still ready to give their life. And that night, that final night living on this earth, the narrations say it was like like bees in a nest. It was one standing, one sitting, one in ruku', one in qiyam, one reading Quran, all doing obedience. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the strength and the power and the ability to serve Sahib al-Zaman the same way the companions of Imam Hussain alayhi salam served him. Alhamdulillah. Inshallah, the brother will begin with the majlis now. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة ومهبط الوحي ومعدن الرحمن وخزان العلم ومنتهى الخير صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك أيها المظلوم صلى الله عليك أيها الشهيد بكربلاء عطشانا. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, O our dear Imam al-Hussein, our beloved oppressed Imam who was slaughtered by the shores of the Furat, whilst his mouth was dry from thirst. Inshallah, tonight we'd like to remember the sacrifice of one of the youngest members in the tent of the Imam. We'd like to remember the youngest son of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, Abdullah ibn Hassan, who was only around 10 years old in Karbala. Abdullah ibn Hassan had never seen his father, so Imam al-Hussein was very much like his father and had deep love and affection for this young boy. There came a time on the day of Ashura that no soldiers of Imam al-Hussein remained. Habib had already gone to the battlefield. Muslim ibn Awsaja, Zuhair, Qasim, Ali al-Akbar and Abbas all had gone, but none had returned. The same companions about whom Imam alayhi salam had said, I have never seen a more loyal set of companions like you all. But now our dear Imam alayhi salam is all alone. They say that Imam looked around, he looked to his left and then to his right, and after seeing no one calls out, Hal min nasirin yansurni. But no one was there to respond to this call of Imam al-Hussein. Now Imam alayhi salam goes to the battlefield alone. Imagine our beloved Imam being attacked from all directions. Those who had spears would try to get close to strike the Imam. Those who had arrows would shoot the Imam from a distance. Those who didn't have anything would gather stones to throw at Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Then the reports say, وَلَمَّا ضَعُفَ عَنِ الْقِتَالِ وَقَفَ يَسْتَرِيحُ. When the thirst and wounds get to our dear Imam, he stands to gather himself to rest a little. فَرَمَاهُ رَجُلٌ بِحَجَرٍ عَلَى جِبْهَتِهِ. A man takes a stone and throws it on the forehead of Aba Abdullah. فَسَالَتْ دَمُهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. Blood gushes from the face of Imam al-Hussein. Imam alayhi salam falls to the ground. He pulls his shirt to clear the blood from his eyes. Zainab realizes this as soon as she sees Imam's horse running to the camp without the rider. She cries out, Wa Muhammada, Wa Aliya. At this time, Abdullah ibn Hassan, the 10-year-old boy who has been kept in the tents by Sayyidah Zainab, runs out to his Imam. He sees a man in the distance standing above the body of Aba Abdullah, raising his sword, just about to strike Imam al-Hussein. This young boy cries out, Ya ibn al-Khabith, atadribu ammi, shullat yadak. O wretched man, how dare you strike my uncle? May your hands become paralyzed. As this mal'oon, this cursed man brings down his sword on Aba Abdullah, this young boy stretches out his little hands to protect his uncle, and this cursed man severs the hands of Abdullah. The strike is so painful. Fasaha ya Amma. He cries out to Imam al-Hussein, Oh uncle. Imam hugs Abdullah and says, Yabna akhi, Isbir ala ma nazala bik, O nephew. Be patient on what has befallen you. ثم رماه حرملة ابن كاهل بسهم. And then Harmala throws an arrow فذبحه وهو في حجر عمه الحسين. Then the arrow pierces the body of Abdullah whilst he lay on the chest of his uncle. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.
Thank you very much to Adishu for another engaging and interesting discussion. May Allah bless you all in this life and the next, inshallah. Also, a big thank you to Brother Sheikh Muhammad Dahaini and Brother Abbas Virji for the heart-touching Messiah. May Allah bless you both. That's it for tonight's program. Inshallah, we will see you all tomorrow night. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.